Who is the suffering servant in Isaiah 52, 13-53, 12? In Christian tradition, Isaiah 52, 13-53, 12 is often thought to refer to Jesus, but a closer look at the text shows this passage is about Israel, not an individual. Let's break it down clearly. Who is the servant in Isaiah? In the book of Isaiah, the servant often refers to Israel. For example, in Isaiah 41:8, God calls Israel his servant. But you, Israel, my servant Jacob, whom I have chosen, the offspring of Abraham, my friend. Similarly, in Isaiah 43:10, God says to Israel, you are my witnesses, and again, you are my servant. These passages reinforce the idea that the servant in Isaiah is not an individual, but the nation of Israel. Why is Israel depicted as suffering? Israel's suffering is described in verses like Isaiah 53:3, where it says, he was despised and rejected by mankind. This reflects Israel's history of hardship, especially during times of exile and oppression. Israel suffers not for its own sins, but to bring redemption to the world. How do the Gentiles view this suffering? In Isaiah 53, 4-5, the Gentiles, other nations, misunderstand Israel's suffering. They think Israel is being punished by God, but later they'll realize that Israel's suffering was part of God's plan to bring salvation to everyone. They thought that the servant was punished by God, but ultimately they will see that this suffering was a means for redemption. What is the arm of the Lord? The arm of the Lord, Isaiah 53:1, refers to God's power and salvation. It's through Israel's suffering that God's salvation will eventually reach the nations. Who has believed our message, and to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? The arm symbolizes how God works through Israel to redeem the world. The nations will come to see God's strength through Israel. How is Israel's suffering redemptive? Isaiah 53:5 says, but he was pained because of our transgressions, crushed because of our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was on him, and by his wounds we are healed. This suffering isn't just for Israel's own sake, but to bring healing and redemption to the nations. Israel bears the sins of others for the sake of the world. How do we know the servant is Israel, not an individual? In the broader context of Isaiah, the servant is consistently Israel. God calls Israel his servant in multiple places like Isaiah 41, 8-9. But you, Israel my servant Jacob whom I have chosen, the offspring of Abraham my friend. In Isaiah 43:10, God says to Israel, you are my witnesses, my servant. This context makes it clear that the servant of Isaiah 52-53 is Israel, and through Israel's suffering, God brings salvation to the world. Christian misinterpretations. Many Christian translations and interpretations mistakenly point to Jesus as the suffering servant. But a closer look at the text shows that the servant in Isaiah 52-53 is Israel.